How much of a fight was it when you joined Breitling, or even in the negotiations to join Breitling? How much of a fight was it to get this kind of level of freedom for you and your team?
So the negotiation to join Breitling were extremely easy because George was very clear on what he tried to achieve, and he left it up to me to build the frame in order to succeed. It was much harder to make other teams and other departments internally to accept this way of working. That is true. And it took a while, because when you have to work side by side with someone who built his entire career sitting at a desk for 30 years, and now all of a sudden you see guys that are 25, they show up at the office, sometimes at 6, sometimes at 9, sometimes they don't come. Sometimes they come for lunch and then they go away. Only then, of course, from the outside, it looks like a mess. And I fully understand. And I had multiple long discussions with some of my colleagues to explain them, look, if you have to complain to me. These guys report to me, leave them alone. They actually do what I ask them to do by working this way, as crazy as it sounds. Yeah. So trust me that the work will be good. And at least this is the bet taken. And we will see if it will pay off. Now we are 5 years, it works, and we start to have the trust from other teams as well. So it's almost like a good circle that keeps building up, because now people see that this, on appearance, messy way of working is actually producing good benefits for the product. So now it's getting much easier, but the first 2-3 years were extremely challenging. Yes.
It sounds hugely risky, and I think I'm getting a stomach ulcer just thinking about it. How was it for you making such bold claims about the new ways of working and trying to win over hearts and minds with the existing employees, while the whole while you're thinking, oh, I really hope this works?
To be honest, I think that's the beauty of youth, that you don't think too much about it. You just do it because you think you truly believe that it's going to work. That's the first thing. Now that I look back at it, I think I only start to realize how bad it could have been if I would have messed up. Because, you take me in an office and you say, look, the product is not working. Your guys are never there. It's basically a zoo that you've built and it's not working. So I would have been fired on the spot. Really, that's how bad it would have been. And I would have probably been blacklisted forever for being the biggest failure in the watch industry ever. But I truly believed it could work. And I also knew in my guts that the existing way of working was not the way to go. Mm-hmm. It would not have produced a different result. That I knew, because I did the assessment when I started, and in my mind, it could not achieve progress in the scale that George asked me to deliver, which is, he was very clear. He said, look, Sylvain, I want you to bring Breitling back in the front of the pack on the wide scene. I want the brand to be sexy, to be modern, do whatever you have to do, but make sure people can actually notice a difference, a real difference.
Yeah, and if there's one thing when it comes to creative endeavor, when you're looking to do something new and exciting, if you carry on doing what you've already been doing, you're going to yield the same result. And I suppose from your perspective, that same result was not very good. So yeah, you could have failed massively, but you couldn't really have failed much more than the business was already failing. So I suppose you could have taken some comfort in that.
Yeah. Well, I could have put the brand to a dead stop even. So that would have been the worst scenario. Like, you try to build a creative team and it doesn't work, and the input is not there in time, and the other teams get stuck because they can't do their part. And you can actually, through a design team only, stop an entire brand from producing and selling pieces. And this is why the other teams are actually very concerned about how we work, because they go, wait a second, if this guy forgets to wake up in the morning and I don't get my designs and my vectorized plans by noon, I'm not able to make the order and to hit my deadlines. So this is why other teams usually try to control their neighbors, so to speak.
How has it been? How has the changing way of working been for Breitling? Is it making more money? Is it selling more watches?
Yeah, well, the numbers are nothing sort of amazing. I mean, we more than doubled the turnover of the company within 4 years. I won't go into specific numbers, but I would not have believed if George told me 5 years ago, Sylvain, please join. We're going to dig deep and do some hard work. And within 5 years, the company will be making twice as more money. I would have said, yeah, sure. This is just a speech, a pitch to get me on board. I would not have believed it, to be honest. And yet that's the reality. And we do not see any signs of slowing down. So now we are in a position where we actually struggle to deliver the pieces.
Wow.
Amazing.
And our way of working has also evolved with years. Before we used to when we launch a new collection, to have a few thousand pieces at the stores, because we knew a collection takes time to get accepted by the customers. So it doesn't matter if you have too much stock in the beginning. But multiple times we ended up being out of stock within 2 weeks. So we changed our mindset. So now I have to get my designs finalized a year before, so that minimum 12 months is dedicated to production only. So now every piece of Breitling you see now, they've been entirely produced a year before. So that makes the exercise for designers harder, because the date where you draw is actually further away from the date where it's going to be where it's going to hit the market. So that makes the exercise harder. You have to project yourself in a longer future for designers. And now these years, even today, when we launch, we have tens of thousands of pieces in the market, and that's still not enough. We still have complaints like, where are the pieces? So it's nothing sort of impressive. I think we are blessed, to have the chance that people appreciate your work, and I'm ever so humbled by the reactions we receive from our customers. People seem very happy, so it's good.
In terms of what you've got coming up then, if you're working 12 months in advance in terms of the production, what can we look forward to seeing in the next few years?
So to clarify, 12 months is now the production before we launch. But as a result, before production, you can add another year of what we call homologation for movements, for cases, for glass, for every component. Then before that, you have to add between 12 and 24 months of pure development, depending on the complexity of the project. So right now, the bare minimum is 3 years. The shortest I can do now, if I take a blank piece of paper, I draw something, I'm finished tonight, the piece will hit the market in 3 years. That's the bare minimum.
That's a long time into the future to think of trends and stuff like that.
I know. And this is why it makes the exercise very hard. And it goes back to why I need designers that have good discipline. They need to have an analytic mindset. They need to put the hours, and they need to have a strong personal culture, because that's the only way you can not know, but at least guess what's going to happen.
So what were you working on 3 years ago that we might see very, very soon, or a couple of years ago that we might see in the next 12 months?
We have 2 chapters for Breitling. The first chapter is almost finished, and the goal was to unpack the Breitling portfolio. When I arrived, Breitling's offer was very condensed in a small portion of the market. So it was mainly pilots' watches, pretty much all looking the same and stacked in the same small segment. Now we spread the portfolio from sport pieces, pilot pieces, divers, land watches in multiple sizes and in multiple flavors. So that was, I would say, the groundwork for the next chapter. And the next chapter will be to go, once the base is established and is stable and strong, then we can go vertically up in complexity by bringing new movements, new materials, new case constructions. So the first chapter is almost over. I think it will be over by end of 2024. And by 2025, we will enter the new chapter, where you will see a second layer of depth for Breitling. We've been working on new, extremely ambitious in-house new calibers, many of them. And I can't wait to show you what's coming, but it's too early to say more at the moment.
I knew you were going to say that.
We're not recording this or anything, it's fine.
It's just us.
So how about yourself? In terms of creative endeavours, in my experience, I'm always looking, and Tom, you're probably the same, always looking, what's the next challenge? Bored of this one now, what's the next thing that I can get my teeth into, the next risk I can take? Where are you with that, Sylvain?
So I have now I've been working for George for almost 10 years. and for big brands in general for 15 years. He worked very well, and recently I discussed with him and we agreed that I could take 20% of my time to do other things. This is also, and it illustrates again how different we want to work. So from September 1st, I'm creative director for Breitling at 80% of my time, and 20% of my time I'm actually contractually allowed to do different projects, not for other watch brands, I should mention. and that I fully understand, and it was not my intention either, but it's just for me a fantastic door to probably do some other smaller project, whether in the motorcycle industry or still in the watch industry with collector friends or small pieces under my own name, whatever it may be. But it's a fantastic opportunity for me to try to express myself in a different way. And in that spectrum, I will be, for example, able to pour my own taste into it, seeing some things that I didn't want to do and that I make sure I didn't do that mistake when you work for Breitling, for example, because it's not the goal of the exercise. I'm not here to please myself. I'm here to serve the brand.
When you say 20%, do you mean that Georges is now giving you the weekends off?
Yes. So on paper, we had to come up with a number. So it says 20%. In reality, I'm still, of course, working full week for Breitling, taking care of the team and the products, not only because I have to, but mostly because I want to. I'm having great fun doing this job. Most of my colleagues became friends over the years, and leaving Breitling would feel like a divorce. You know, that's the reality, and that's actually the beauty of it. Yeah, when not only when you sweat hard alongside your colleagues with years, strong bonds develop, and at Breitling we really have this feeling right now. You know, you come in the morning, you can, check your colleagues and hug, and we are happy to see each other, especially because I show up only on Mondays. So, but we really having great fun, and we have great synergy. I'm surrounded by people that are masters at what they do, whether it is technical construction, product development, movement, building, quality. It's really a blessing to work in these conditions.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned your own watch. Are you serious about that?
I'm not sure yet, because this is something I unlocked. We've discussed it for a few months with George. This is something we came up with. He understands my need to have a little bubble of madness on my own. The same bubbles that I give to my guys in the team, by the way. I make sure they always have a small portion of the work where you can go mad, because this is not only important, it's also healthy for being creative. At the moment, I'm discussing different projects, and I might come up with something in the future. Yeah, it could be an interesting project, maybe wearing my name, with some very well-known collectors involved. It's too early to say yet, but at least I have the possibility to do it. And once again, I should applaud George for understanding and being so modern in the approach. Like giving this responsibility to a 29 years old is extremely risky. To my knowledge, in the industry right now, I'm probably the one and only exception of having that kind of job and having the authorization to do what I want in the weekends as a job. So that shows again how much we believe into a new way of working, more modern, more less restricted, I would say, in a way, as long as the performance is good.
How have you found the rest of the industry to be going? Like, is what's happening in the wider watch industry make it easier for you as designers, or to fit in, or would you prefer to sort of go against what's happening?
Breitling has always been a bit of a hooligan in the watch industry as a brand. No, that should be mentioned. And this is something we acknowledge when we took over the brand, and we want to make sure to respect that. George is very well suited to be the CEO of Breitling, because he doesn't care what the others do. So We try not to be too influenced by the big market trends, and quite the opposite. A good illustration of that is, for example, the pistachio dial on the Premier collection. It's a very classical watch, and yet we came out with a different variation of green. It's not the same green like everyone goes for. It's the Breitling, I would say, way of doing things. Yes, we are aware. Yes, we are with you in the 21st century, but that will be done under our own rules, so to speak. So yes, we go green, but not the same green, and it doesn't appear where you expect it to come. Boom, it comes on a dress watch, proper manual wind chronograph with a green pistachio dial.
If I recall correctly, your green also came out before a lot of other people's greens. When was that released? 2019? 2018?
Yes, 19 probably. Yeah, he was on the early stage of the green wave, definitely.
Everyone else was still on salmon.
Yeah, sure. Sure. But I do not pretend we do not pretend to be trendsetters, but I think this is the good effect of, because if you spend your time looking out the window to what other people are doing, you end up being very reactive.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't lead the pack if you just follow what the others are doing. So it's much riskier, it's much harder. And within the team, we are all aligned on that. We try to look down on our desk to make our own bets on what's going to be the future, and then you have to believe in that claim and go for it. And sometimes it gives me sleepless nights sometimes, because you go, oh wow, if this doesn't work, I mean, it's going to be tough. But you have to take the risk, otherwise it's not worth it. Yeah, at the end. And
if it doesn't work, Georges is going to punch you in the face.
No, actually, this is something as well. When I took this job, I was very scared, to mess it up. And but this has to be said, like when you go I was an autonomous designer in my previous job, so I didn't have much orders to follow, but I was not managing any team, and I was not responsible for a part of the P&L for the company. So now when you have that on your shoulders, you go like, oh wow, okay, you tend naturally to go in a defensive position, where you make safe decisions not to screw up, so to speak. Yeah. Which I didn't do. It brought the results that we described before. But as we say, nobody is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. So I certainly did some mistakes. And I had to attend to some meetings when I told George, look, I screwed up. This didn't play well. What can we do here? And you have to take the responsibility. Never blame the team. Take it on your own self. And I was actually extremely surprised how George was constructive and say bienveillant in French. We say he was caring, good care, to help to solve the problem. It's not about cutting heads; it's about keeping the ball rolling. And that was it gives even stronger motivation to go out there and take risk, and because you have someone who backs you up. Even if you screw up, you should not screw up every day, of course, because that becomes a problem. But a percentage of failure is actually accepted, because that's the consequence. If you don't fail, that means you are not trying anything very risky, do you?
So do you still find now, several years on, you've demonstrated your capability, you've proven success. Do you still find yourself hungry for taking risks at Breitling? Or is there the temptation to slip into the groove that you've created for yourself?
I try never to go into the comfort zone. On the personal level, I've been racing motorcycles for 20 years, and racing taught me one thing is, if you relax, you will slow down. Mm-hmm. If you try to do only what you're good at, you will fail. So I usually, when I have two options on the table, I always take the hardest one, the ones that I don't feel comfortable with, because I know that's the ones that will help us to learn something. And it's sometimes exhausting, which is why I'm happy to be surrounded by, and this is where having a good team, where you have trust, where you have skills, becomes extremely precious. Because if I have a down moment, like everybody, I go like, Kit, why don't we just like take it easy and go for the safe bet? And then my guys like Pablo, Massimo, they go like, no, Sylvain, you remember we decided to go for the hard route. Come on, let's do this. I will help. No, but it's good because you have this group momentum, yeah. And it's fantastic. And sometimes it's even outside my team. I have technical guys. They go like, you know what, it's gonna be a nightmare, but let's give it a try. And we shake hands and we go for it. I've tried stupid prototypes that costed us a fortune to try things that didn't work, but none of us regret and no one has been blamed for it, but we gave it a go, and that's what matters.
It really is. Speaking of racing, I think there's a quote from Ayrton Senna: if you stop going for the gap, you're no longer a racer. And I suppose that's what you apply to the method of designing. You have to go for that opportunity.
Yes. And it's extremely demanding on a mental and physical level every day. I mean, because, of course, you always put the cursor on the hardest position, and that's what you do. And it's for... But at the end of the day, when the product launches on the market and people go like, oh, wow, the pistachio dial, oh, the Navi timer is nice, oh, the bullet bracelet, and people really appreciate the risk we took, it gives us additional motivation to keep going. It's a great feeling.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sylvain, for joining us. Dear viewer and listener, if you have any questions for Sylvain, do put them in the comments below and we'll try and rope him back in for another call if he's not been put off by this one. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really, really fascinating to actually talk to someone this deep into a business, especially one that's been as contentious as Breitling in the past, that seems to be doing so much good work. And I can honestly say, hand on heart, that the work that you and your team have done have turned the opinion of Breitling, in my mind, completely 180 degrees. It's fantastic work that you've done. So
agreed.
Give yourself all a pay rise, a pat on the back, and take a week off as well and enjoy your...
Take Mondays off.
Yeah. Enjoy the fruits of your labour. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, in the name of the design team and the product development teams at Breitling, we thank you for considering our work. And then on a personal note, I had a blast, Andrew, Tom, to have this discussion. Anytime again, it will be a pleasure, guys.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, dear viewer and listener, for joining us too. Please do like, comment and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.